I'll begin with a question for Ms. Feinberg. Now, you weren't there, but a decision was made, as Mr. Hart said, to sprinkle this money around. I know it's sometimes you talk in hindsight, but a high-speed rail project is a very expensive project. We've ended up now with, what, $3.9 billion dedicated to California. That's not enough really to bail that project out. And most of the balance, 99% of the money is obligated. What happens with our one potential project, California? What happens with it? Yeah. There's $3.9 billion. It's a $64 to $68 billion project. It keeps getting delayed, put off.
Well, to California specifically, they're also paying for the project with cap-and-trade funds and with state funds as well.
Is there any plan for additional federal funds?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Okay. My preference would have been to put the money in the Northeast Corridor in one route and show some success and partner with the private sector. Maybe $10 billion wouldn't have done it, but it would have been good seed money to partner. And I think Mr. Feigenbaum, you said that was the way you recommended to go. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. That is the way that other countries that I think we look to for high-speed rail, Japan and France, have done it.
Because they're very capital-intensive projects. We don't have the money that China has, and they're building thousands of miles of high-speed rail. But and then Amtrak came up with a proposal for high-speed service in the Northeast Corridor, which was estimated to take 30 years and $150 billion. Well, first, I won't be alive. Most people on this panel won't be alive to see that. And they're not going to get $150 billion or even a good percentage of it from Congress. Isn't that sort of a given, Ms. Feinberg?
That's certainly been the case.
So we're trying to get some successes. We put Amtrak, which I call our Soviet-style train system, for lack of a better term, and it has been a monopoly. We opened up, and with some provisions I put in the last transportation legislation. Do you know anything about the status of where we are on that, Ms. Feinberg, opening that up? I heard we had some interest.
Yes, sir. I think the last time we briefed you on this, which we've been working closely with you on, the request for proposals was going out. They're due in August. And so I expect that we will know more then. I have not been tracking them as they come in, but I believe the due date is in August.
Mm-hmm. And when we did the PREA bill, we originally opened the Northeast Corridor, which sort of got gobbled up by Amtrak, which we wanted to get some serious proposals. Mr. Hart spoke to it, and we ended up with, how many did you say, Mr. Hart? There were a number interested in.
There were 15 consortia that I know of, and worked with a number of them, particularly on the East Coast programs, and they just got frustrated through
Well,
this
some
process.
of them, I was told, came in, Amtrak had taken control, and basically said, we aren't interested, go away. That's why we shifted the program over to DOT so they could get some sort of possibility to participate, as opposed to our sole vendor and operator, Amtrak, shooing them off. No one wants competition. I would love not to have an opponent in the primary of the general election. I'm sure these media guys would like to just have one station and all of that, but that's not the reality we live in, and competition is healthy. Mr. Hart gave sort of a stinging criticism of FRA and the process they set forward. I know Ms. Feinberg wasn't there, but we've had problems even, we have in Florida All Aboard, which is probably our most successful higher speed project in the country. It'll go about 79 miles an hour from Miami to Orlando. mainly because of speed restrictions that are imposed. It can go faster, I know, and it will go pretty fast in some stretches. But again, the federal process, it used to take 15 years. I think we started on this 5 years ago with some of the approvals. Do you think there's
all aboard Florida.
anything we can do to speed that up?
Are you talking about all aboard Florida specifically?
Yeah,
or just
well,
the permitting
there's
process?
another one, is it Texas Coastal or something? But
Certainly, Secretary Fox and the FRA have been really supportive of improving and speeding up the permitting process in any way that we can. I mean, part of the frustration of why the process takes so long, frankly, is not really a complaint directed at the FRA. It's actually a complaint directed at Mica and at the historic societies across America that tend to have strong opinions about major infrastructure projects.
well, the other thing, too, is like FEC is about 70% on an existing corridor, and then there's another former rail corridor that wasn't developed coming into Orlando Airport. But I can see if you're plotting a new course and some of those concerns. But I know working with Senator Boxer and others, our intent before was to try to speed up and condense that process. With Mr. Oberstar, I stood on a bridge on Highway, 35, with members of Congress that had collapsed, people were killed, and it was built in 435 days or something like that, which the normal procedure would be 4 or 5 years just for permitting. But we put a safer bridge in, and with All Aboard Florida, they're putting positive train control, they're putting rail safety improvements, they're improving the bridges for maritime traffic, a whole host of things, not to mention new environmental improvements. So getting those new systems in place actually protect the environment, enhance the environment, and get us a system that is 21st century. I'd like to invite you to, I went down about 2 months ago and saw Miami, All Aboard, and members of the subcommittee. The project, this All Aboard Florida, will open actually the first leg. They've got the 3 stations, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. The vehicles are coming, almost all private dollars. The Miami terminal by itself is $2 billion, and it envelops the existing Metro Rail, and people move her downtown. They'll be bringing Tri-Rail, a commuter rail in, and high-speed rail into it. It is a phenomenal project, but I'd like to invite you down and members to see that.
Thank you.
Again, a private-public, to a degree, partnership, but almost all private money in the project. So she nodded yes, so we'll make a date.
Thank you for the invitation. I would love to come. I would love to come down.
Finally, we're spending a lot of money on Acela, and you had talked about some improvements on the Northeast Corridor. One that concerned us after the Philadelphia crash was positive train control. How long before we have that in place, do you know?
So Amtrak, to their credit, was quite far ahead on PTC, and they activated PTC on the Northeast Corridor on time for the last deadline, which was December 31st of 2015. That was before the Congress moved the deadline to 2020. So Amtrak
but the only section that was done there, I'm told, is the section up in New Haven. Yet there's still sections that were to be done. And that was more of a private ownership initiative.
So the pieces of the Northeast Corridor that Amtrak owns and controls, they have turned PTC on. There are certainly portions of rail across the country that Amtrak operates on that do not have PTC yet. Prior to the Philadelphia accident, there was PTC turned on in some portions, but not the specific portion where the Philadelphia derailment happened at Frankfurt Junction.
And they had made a decision not to install it in the direction in which the crash occurred.
It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's it generally. They had turned on a version of PTC in one direction, not in the other, based on the belief that an engineer would be unlikely to be accelerating into a sharp curve, which is exactly what happened in the Philadelphia derailment.
I have more questions, but we'll go to Ms. Duckworth, our ranking member now. Thank you.